Hey everybody, Matt Bickel here, and today I want to talk to you about feats in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Now, what exactly are feats? Feats are special abilities, skills, and proficiencies that your character can learn as they develop from a level 1 to a level 20 character. And these opportunities to learn feats come every time your character has an ability score increase. Ability score increase allows you to take 2 points and apply them to your ability scores, whether it's strength, constitution, intelligence. You have 2 points that you can apply to one stat, or you can apply 1 point to this stat and 1 to the other stat over there. It's up to you however you want to split it. But instead of the ability score increase, you can choose to take a feat instead. And some feats, in addition to skills or proficiencies and special abilities that you can learn, they'll also give you 1 ability score point instead of the 2 from the ability score, the regular ability score increase. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. Now, when do these happen? The ability score increase happens 5 times for most classes, but the rogue has it 6 times, and the fighter has 7 opportunities to have ability score increases or to take a feat instead. And I really like feats because they allow you to fill out your character, flesh them out just that much more than you ordinarily have the opportunity to with just your class abilities and subclass abilities that you get. Those are great, but you can just have a little more personal tweaking and detail as you work in the feats. So I want to talk to you about 5 feats that I think are a little underappreciated. These aren't necessarily the min-maxer feats that are going to give you the most bang for your buck. Some feats are genuinely great, hands down. Some feats are sort of specialized. Like if you're playing a heavy dungeon delving campaign, Dungeon Delver might be a great feat for you to take. But if you're playing a seafaring campaign, not so much. The Dungeon Delver feat might not be very useful for you. Same with these feats I'm going to introduce to you. I think that they have some really cool features. They introduce some really cool opportunities for action and for role playing, but they might not be suitable for you and your campaign. So look over what they do. Maybe you like them. I hope that you give them a try. I think that they're fun. So the first feat I want to talk to you about is the Charger feat. Now, what the Charger feat does is it allows you, if you use your action to dash, you move your full movement, then you dash. If you move 10 feet in a straight line, after that, moving 10 feet in a straight line, you can use your bonus action to do a full-on regular attack. And if you hit, you get to add +5 to the damage roll right off the top. Super awesome. It's just a nice way to run in there, get in the action, have a nice heavy hit. But maybe even more useful sometimes is that it allows you, instead of attacking, to use your bonus action to shove a creature. Ordinarily, when you shove a creature, it moves them 5 feet. But if you successfully shove a creature using the Charger feat, you shove it 10 feet. And this gives you a lot of opportunities to kind of influence the layout of the battlefield. If there's a cliff face or fire, water, something around that's dangerous, and you have the opportunity to move a creature 10 feet against their will, that could be really, really significant. You could move them into a hazard. You can move them from behind cover out into the open where the rest of your party could blast them to smithereens. A lot of cool opportunities can come from that. I think that the Charger feat is really pretty cool and underappreciated. The next feat I want to talk to you about is the Defensive Duelist feat. Now, Dual Wielder is a different feat from this one, and it gets a lot of attention, and I understand why. When you're using 2 individual weapons in your hands, you gain +1 to your AC, which kind of makes up for giving up wearing a shield on your arm. Additionally, you can use full-on big weapons basically instead of just small simple weapons, which increases your damage rolls from d6s to d8s most of the time, which is nice. You do more damage, and then in addition to that, you can store and then also equip 2 weapons in the time it would take you to do 1, which really is quite important because ordinarily it costs your whole action to equip a weapon. So doing 2 for the price of 1 is very useful. So I understand why the Dual Wielder feat gets so much attention, but the Defensive Duelist feat I think is the next logical step for the person who takes the Defensive Duelist or the Dual Wielder feat, especially if you're playing a campaign that's heavy on the martial classes, or you're missing a healer or something else like that, or a spellcaster who can cast mage armor and stuff like that. Having the Defensive Duelist feat is very useful because it allows you, if you're wielding a finesse weapon that you're proficient with, that when an enemy attacks you with a melee attack, you can add your proficiency bonus to your AC as a reaction. And this is really cool because when you're a low level character, first, second, third level character, your proficiency bonus is just +2. But when you start getting into higher levels, your proficiency bonus becomes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And having that big of an addition to your AC can make a lot of creatures, even really powerful creatures, kind of hit you only if you let them hit you. I mean, you could be wielding 2 weapons, have an AC of say 18, and a dragon attacks you with its claw, and you go, I'm going to add my proficiency score of 7. Now you have an AC of 25. It cost you your reaction, but gosh, 25 is a really, really high AC, even if it is only temporary. That's why I think the defensive duelist feat really is quite good and a little bit underappreciated. The next feat I want to talk to you about is the Inspiring Leader feat. Now, this feat is super cool, again, especially if you don't have a bunch of healers or spellcasters who can buff the party. But even if you do have spellcasters that can buff the party's abilities, the Inspiring Leader feat is a fantastic feat because you can spend 10 minutes giving an inspiring speech to your party. Up to 6 people can have this benefit applied to them, including yourself, so you plus 5 others, or 6, however you'd like to divvy it up. And after the 10-minute inspiring speech, all of 6 of these people gain temporary hit points of your charisma modifier plus your character's level. So with a 10th level character and a charisma modifier of even just +3, 13 temporary hit points is massive, especially if you're spreading it around 6 characters. That is a phenomenal amount of HP, temporary HP, to be added to your party. And if you start stacking this up with other spellcasters who are adding aid and other spells that buff the party's HP, you quickly will go into an encounter with a bonus 20, 30 HP per character going into that battle. And gosh, does that give you a significant leg up on the big fight that's up ahead of you. I think that Inspiring Leader is a fantastic feat and a little bit underappreciated. The next feat I want to talk to you about, that I think might be the most underappreciated feat on this entire list, is Moderately Armored. Moderately Armored is a feat that allows you to gain proficiency with medium armor and with shields, and it has a prerequisite that you're proficient with light armor. Most of the gaining proficiency with armors and even with weapons feats, I'm not a really big fan of. I think that they're a little bit limited. They're not quite as useful as some of the other feats, but this one is, I think, the best of the gaining proficiencies with armors and weapons feats, because you get to increase your strength or dexterity score by 1, and you gain proficiency with medium armors and shields. Now, what characters or classes have proficiency with light armor? Well, that's the rogue, the bard, and the warlock. All 3 of these classes are very, very, very effective and powerful. 2 of them are spellcasters. All 3 of them can be spellcasters if the rogue takes the subclass that gives them spellcasting. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. Arcane Trickster, that's what it is. Now, if you take this feat, you gain proficiency with medium armor and shields. This is huge because a spellcaster can still cast their spells wearing this heavier armor and a shield because they're now proficient in it. Plus, if you take something like a breastplate, for instance, that gives you a minimum AC of 14. If you add a shield, that's 16, and you can add 2 from your dexterity score modifier, giving you a total of 18 AC. This is a pretty high AC, I think, especially for a rogue or a bard or a warlock character. Even if you had the best light armor and a dexterity score of +5, you would still come up at only an AC of 17. So it's up to you how you want to work this out. It might not be worth it to you, but gosh, I think that an AC of 18 on some of these characters, especially a rogue or a warlock or a bard, gosh, that could be really, really useful. And the great thing too is that the breastplate, if you take that armor, doesn't even impose disadvantage on your stealth checks, so you can still be sneaky, Mr. Rogue, and have an AC of 18. I think this is a very, very useful feat, and I think it's just a little bit underappreciated. The last feat I want to talk to you about is Tavern Brawler. And Tavern Brawler kind of couples together with Grappler, sort of like I mentioned earlier, Dual Wielder and Defensive Duelist. Tavern Brawler, I think, is a bit underappreciated, and I think it couples great if you're a person who's already taking the Grappler feat, because the Grappler feat requires you to have a strength of 13 or higher. That's a prerequisite. Just want to lay it out there. That way I don't give you any false hopes. But you have advantage on rolls against a creature to attack them while you have them grappled. And you can use your action to try to pin someone that you already have grappled. That's really useful because if you pin them, then they are considered restrained, which is awesome because if they are restrained, they can't do anything unless they manage to break out of your restrainment. And while they're restrained, all of your party members have advantage on melee attacks against them. And this is super, super useful if you couple it together with the Tavern Brawler feat, because the Tavern Brawler allows you to increase your Constitution or Strength score by 1, which is super nice. But in addition to that, you become proficient with improvised weapons. Now, improvised weapons can be just about anything. A mug you have at the bar, the chair that's right next to you. Doesn't matter. If you're a really strong character, you could pick up an entire blinking table, throw it across the room, and add your proficiency modifier to the hit bonus. And then, if you've already hit somebody with an unarmed strike, I got a little ahead of myself there, not the improvised weapon, but your unarmed strike becomes a D4 rather than a D2, which can be really useful, especially if you have a high strength modifier. But if you hit a creature with an unarmed strike, you can try to grapple them as a bonus action. Think about that. You run up to someone, you use an unarmed strike to hit them. When you hit them, you can go ahead and grapple them. And then on your next turn, having successfully grappled them, you can use another action to restrain them. In 2 turns, you manage to have them hit, grappled, and restrained. And if you're doing this as a surprise attack, you have the opportunity to do both of these things before this guy has even had a chance to move. This is a phenomenal opportunity, especially if you're trying to arrest some sort of important character. And I want to tell you, if you manage to couple this together with the enlarge feat, then oh my goodness, can you imagine, not the enlarge feat, the enlarge spell effect, whether it's through a potion or through the enlarge reduce spell, which allows you to gain 1 full size. So your medium-sized creature goes to a large-sized creature, which means that your tank character who takes these feats could go and successfully grapple a giant-sized enemy. My goodness, what a fantastic event that could be in your campaign. I think that the Tavern Brawler feat, especially coupled together with the Grappler feat, is very useful and just a little bit underappreciated. What do you think? Did I miss any feats? Am I out of my mind? Did these feats suck? Let me know in the comments below. Please like and subscribe. As always, take care, have fun, and may the dice always roll in your favor.